wanted to use
Really short.
Let me say that both my parents were immigrants, and of course, all Americans should admire and respect immigrants. We're not nativists, right? I mean, but that's not the issue. The issue is how many, given the fact that we admire and respect immigrants, given our immigrant tradition, how many, and specifically the issue is, do we let everyone in the world who wants to come here, right? Or alternatively, are we going to enforce some kind of limit? Now, I'm a lawyer. Lawyers like to think they can argue both sides of every question. Me too. If we had all the time in the world, I could argue both sides of those questions. But that's the choice we have to make. Are we going to let every single person in the world who wants to come here to take their shot at the American dream come here? Or are we going to enforce some kind of numerical limit? That's a choice. It's a hard choice, especially hard choice for elected officials, because neither of those choices is really appealing. Open borders, let everyone in, that's not going to sell. Everyone knows that. You can't take that position. But enforcing a limitation means you have to turn around people who look a lot like our ancestors, who just want to work hard, take their shot. They're not criminals, they're not national security threats. We have to say no to them. And if they come in violation of our laws, in order to enforce our laws, we have to remove them from the United States. And there are a lot of people in the United States who say, oh, that's too hard. We can't do that either. We can't have open borders, we can't let everyone in, but we can't really enforce the limitation either because that's too hard. Give me a third choice. Well, there isn't a third choice, but people think there is, and they're making one up as we go along. Here's the third choice that they've come up with. Let's pretend we have an immigration system, but let's not enforce it. You think anyone will notice? And if a lot of people come in illegally, we'll just give them a big amnesty, you know, and that'll be the end of it, right? As a number of elected officials in this town have said, we're going to deal with this issue once and for all, get it off our plates, never deal with it again. Guess what? It doesn't work that way. And as Jim has explained, you know, we've done this before. Now, I was walking past City Hall in Cambridge, Massachusetts recently, and if you ever get there, look up on the front of City Hall, and here's what you'll see. Forgive me while I read this. God has given commandments unto men. From these commandments men have framed laws by which to be governed. It is honorable and praiseworthy to faithfully serve the people by helping to administer these laws. If the laws are not enforced, the people are not well governed. And of course, that reminded me of the current administration's decision not to enforce the nation's immigration laws. President Obama has gone to the Congress and asked for a big amnesty that will amnesty virtually all or most of the illegal immigration population and double legal immigration going forward. He hasn't been able to get that from Congress, and so he has instead initiated through executive order various policies, including prosecutorial discretion, which means that really the only illegal aliens who are high priorities for removal from the United States are those convicted of serious felonies or who present national security threats to the United States. If you don't fall in those two categories, the reality is, and it's been acknowledged by the former head of ICE, that you have almost zero chance of being removed from the United States. Through executive order, the President has unilaterally decided that illegal aliens who entered the U.S. before the age of 16 ought not be held responsible for their illegal entry, and so should receive work authorization, not be subject to removal. More than 550,000 aliens have already been deemed qualified for that status by the administration, and as Rich has mentioned, the President is said to be contemplating a vast expansion of that deferred action program, possibly to include the parents of the people who brought these people, right? They got DACA because they were not responsible for coming, but we're going to give DACA to the parents who were responsible for coming. I'm not sure that that makes any sense. Is it any wonder that the U.S. is now experiencing this flood of aliens crossing our border illegally, including record numbers of minors, all expecting to benefit from the administration's policies. Now, if you listen to the administration spokesman, they say, well, you know, technically we need to explain to them that they're not going to qualify for any of these benefits. Yeah, technically you need to explain that, but I'll tell you, the people on the ground coming in across our border know better what's happening at our borders than the bureaucrats sitting here in Washington, D.C. And they know they're getting through, and as Jim says, they're getting benefits. The kids are enrolled in schools. They're being transported at taxpayer expense to their parents or relatives who are already in the country illegally. So they know the reality that they're here to stay. They're never going home as long as this administration's policies remain in place. And they're calling home to spread the word, hey, this works. It absolutely works. Find a reliable smuggler, get yourself into the United States, and take your best shot. So that is the reality. The administration says, well, these unaccompanied minors, our hands are tied. There's this 2008 anti-trafficking law, but the Center for Immigration Studies has published a document showing that there's at least 3 reasons why this is just another administration excuse. The vast majority of these young people don't fit the definition of unaccompanied minors under the statute. They are not victims of trafficking. They're being smuggled. Their families are spending large sums of money to smuggle them into the United States to join relatives that are already here. And finally, there's an exception in that statute for exceptional circumstances, which members of Congress have already cited. Last point I'll make is this. What if a future president wants to cut income taxes to a flat 10%, but can't get Congress to go along with it? Could the president exercise prosecutorial discretion to announce that taxpayers refusing to pay taxes at the statutory rate will not be a priority for enforcement as long as they pay 10%? It seems to me that's where the president is leading us right now. If we want an imperial presidency, and we've been talking about one for a long time, if we want Cesar Chavez as our president, that's the way to go. Thank you.